Hey there, this is C. Anderson, and I am so excited to be here talking with Tina Stolzfus-Horst. Sorry if I butchered your name there, Tina. But so good to have you here with us. And of course, Kevin Sutter. And these are leaders in missions who have had years and years of experience training leaders around the world. And so excited to be here talking today about how to use creative strategies to really raise up and train and equip oral culture people. And so for a lot of us, we don't even know what we're talking about with orality and oral culture. And Tina and Kevin are not experts in this topic, but they are, I like to call them experimenters. They're people who are concerned about making sure that the people they train are trained in a way that they understand and can apply, and they can put these things into practice. And so I'm so grateful to have you guys on the call today on this broadcast. And I would just say, if you are coming in, we'd love to know where you're coming in from. Let us know what part of the world there in the chat. Go ahead and chat in, and that way we can know where you're joining us from. And if you have questions that come up in your mind, feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat, and we'll do our best to respond to them, probably just in chat reply later. But feel free to engage and ask questions, and we're just so glad that you've decided to join us here today. But we're talking about oral culture learners and how to reach them. But first, I want to be sure to introduce Tina and Kevin more fully. So I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves. And as you do that, tell us what your passion is, what your ministry is, and who you've been training for many years and the things that you've been training them in. So let's start with Tina, if you wouldn't mind going first. Introduce yourself to us, please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Cindy. It's an honor to be here with you and Kevin today. I've been training leaders for, 25 years, been a coach and a coach trainer. And as I started to do that internationally, the first group of people that I worked with were South Asians. I learned so much. And I really have a passion to see people be able to grow as leaders, to become more effective, to become more like Jesus in their character and their ministry, and then to equip people with skills so they can help others to do that. I want to see things multiply, and I believe that's what God wants to see. I'm passionate about cross-cultural communication and just finding ways for people to be able to communicate, to learn together, to grow together across cultures.
That's great. And just, you mentioned cross-cultural communication. You're an author as well, as you pioneered 2 or 3 different ministries over the years. Tell us a little bit, what book did you write and what was that about?
I wrote Dancing Between Cultures, which is a book about how to do coaching and cross-cultural communication. And it just helps people to understand the different values in other cultures and how to adapt our conversation, our training, our leadership across cultures. I love learning about other cultures, and I believe that the diversity that God has created in culture is just a beautiful expression of who He is and how much He loves us, how creatively He loves us.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I know a lot of the people who are joining this call, those who are listening in, they are people who are working cross-culturally. They're working to try to reach the unreached, to start disciple-making movements among them. And so you bring so much to the table as we talk today. I know that we'll just barely touch on the wealth of your knowledge today, but we're really grateful that you could be here with us, Tina. And Kevin, introduce yourself. Tell us what's your passion and what motivates you, and kind of what your ministry has been over many years. Some of our people on the call know you, but some do not. So introduce yourself, please.
I'm also happy to be involved with Tina in this project and with Cindy. Cindy and I have worked together for many, many years. And our passion together is to see ordinary followers of Jesus equipped to reach their friends and neighbors with the gospel, help those people to grow as faithful disciples, and to see them come together and multiply, to see movements. This is something I've been involved in various ways for 35 years or so. But Tina reminded me, as you were talking, I remembered this experience I had also in South Asia. This was in the early 90s. And I was at a gathering of some of our YWAM workers. I think it was in North India. Many of them were Indians and Nepalis. And I was there to talk about how to reach people who then would reach others. You know, multiplication of disciples, multiplication of fellowships. And during a break, I was standing with a friend, and he said, "See that brother over there?" And he pointed him out, and there's a man standing against a wall eating. It was break. And he said, he does not read. He's illiterate, so he doesn't have much education, but he has already started 7 fellowships among an unreached people group. And I looked at this man with admiration and thought, what a great man. So he doesn't have a lot of education. He isn't able to read, but he is able to glorify God and to reach people. And I thought, those are the people I want to serve. If there's any way I can serve people like that, whatever I have to help them, I want to do that. And that is part of my motivation in life. And I've gotten to see some amazing people raised up in leadership and being so fruitful, and me being able to make a little contribution in my own ways. And that's what I want to do. My whole life, I want to see people move forward in the calling of God upon their lives and to be fruitful.
That's so good. And Kevin, you have been so effective in doing that in so many ways already. And yet you're not content. You're always looking for new ways that you can be even more effective in training and equipping people, especially raising up leaders, and not just leaders who can read books, but leaders who are out there in the harvest, they're out there in the field, and they're fruitful. And you want to equip them and help them to be effective in equipping others as well. And so that's why we're here today talking about creative new strategies and how do we train people who are from oral cultures. Let me just define oral cultures a little bit as we talk about oral cultures, what we mean. For some people who are watching, they want exactly what you guys want. They're passionate about the same things, but let's just define what we're talking about when we talk about oral cultures. So when we mention oral cultures, we're talking about people who prefer to learn through stories, through dramas, through hearing things and participating with them, as opposed to learning from books, right? It doesn't necessarily mean they're illiterate, which, Kevin, you mentioned this man who couldn't read and write. Not all oral culture learners are illiterate. In fact, many people who are oral culture learners can read and write, but they prefer to learn. Their preferred style of learning in their culture, in the way that they've grown up, and just their personal style is through participating in things, songs, music, dance, physical things. And they come from a culture where in their culture, the way that important content is passed down is through stories. And so most of the cultures in Asia, in Africa, even many of the immigrant peoples who live in the United States or in Canada or in Europe are from what we call an oral culture. the way that their culture passes on information is not through books and not through writing things down. It's through stories and song and drama and things like that. So that's my understanding anyway of what an oral culture is. And so many of the people we're trying to train and that the people who are listening are wanting to train come from this kind of a background. Is there anything that either of you'd like to add to kind of that definition of what we mean when we talk about oral culture people?
Cindy, I would say one of the things that strikes me as a trainer is that often people who are from oral cultures or prefer oral learning also prefer to learn in relationship. And so they learn best in a group where there's discussion, where there's interaction, where we're praying for each other, we're concerned for each other, we're able to talk about how we're putting this into practice together. And that's a really important component of the learning process.
Right. Oh, so good. Yeah, that whole community aspect is really, really important. They're not individualists, but they're community oriented in their culture. And so that applies to how we train in those contexts. So good, Tina. Anything you'd like to add, Kevin, as we talk about what we mean by oral culture learning?
Yeah, I think that whole aspect of it being relational and people participating together, that camaraderie, that learning together. And actually, all of us benefit from that. But often, if we've grown up in more of a Western context, our educational system can be very individualistic. You read the book. When I read books, I underline, I put notes on the side. I get a lot out of reading. But if that's all I did, I would dry up. I need to interact with other people. I mean, that's me from a more individualistic culture. And it's much more so for people that are from more of a community culture and relational. That rich relationship has to be part of their learning process, and it is. And if we are able to provide a learning experience that incorporates that, all the better. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's right. And so, either one of you can answer this question or both of you, but I hear you talking about why we need to understand the difference between oral cultures and book learning cultures, cultures that are more community oriented as opposed to more individualistic. And kind of inferred in that is that we then need to adapt how we train and what we do as trainers to fit the culture, that the learning style that's preferred by those people. And yet, a lot of people don't adapt. A lot of people take a training that was run in North America or it was run in Europe, and they just rubber stamp it and put it into a context in Asia or in India or Africa. And they try to run that exact same training in the exact same way, but then they wonder why people are so slow to pick up and understand. Have you guys ever seen that? Why is it important that we adapt and change our style of training to fit the context of the people we're trying to train?
I'm glad you brought that up, Cindy. Definitely, I've seen this many, many times, that we as a trainers are modeling something that cannot be imitated or copied or used by the people we're trying to equip. And so then they do it the same way it was presented to them. So I've hopefully enough times I've recognized how that is a problem, and I've adapted myself. I try my best to do that. So I feel the responsibility to adapt it has to start with me. The change needs to start with me, and not to expect somebody else to figure it out. If I'm convinced these truths or these insights or this training is really important for others, then I need to figure out how to pass it on in a way that they can pass on to the best of my ability. They're still going to have to adjust it, of course, but still I need to start making the changes myself. Otherwise, who's going to do it? It's really important.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, Tina, how about you? Anything you want to add on that?
I just follow up on that by saying, if we really believe that God has created this beautiful diversity in culture, if we really believe that God works through others and that he has created each person in each culture in some way that reflects him, why would we not want to honor that? And why would we not want to contextualize what we're bringing? Because we want to reach people. We want what we do to be effective. And so, of course, we would want to honor that beauty in others. We would want to connect with, how best do you learn? How can I serve you? If our attitude is not that servant approach, what we're bringing it's not effective.
Yeah, that's right. It's not effective, and it's not, as we often say in DMMs, it's not reproducible. It's not going to multiply and grow organically and spread through that people group or through that region easily, because there's barriers that are caused just by the method of training that we're using. And I would just echo what Kevin said. That's been my experience as well. Sometimes as the trainer, though, if I'm a Westerner, or even if you're an African who was trained in a Western context, maybe you had a Western education, or you're an Asian with a Western education, and you're trying to reach people in rural Mali, or some country in West Africa. You have to also adapt and change. And sometimes for us, that's heavy. That's hard. I know there have been times where I've been trying to prepare, and, putting together a 3-point sermon is really pretty quick for me, pretty easy. I know how to do that. I can do that fast. But putting together a presentation where I'm using stories, where I'm making it participatory so that everyone can learn, slowing myself down. So I'm teaching less content, but teaching it in a way that it can multiply and it can reproduce. It can be hard work, but it's worth it because of the effect and the impact that we see, and the reproducibility of those stories and things that can start to spread and be retold. So yeah, awesome. I know you guys are passionately committed to this, and you actually have a course that you've created. It's going to be opening for enrollment. In fact, it's open now, and it's a course that's particularly geared towards people who are from oral cultures. But the course isn't about oral cultures. Tell us, what's the content of this new course, and what are some of the skills that people would gain who take this course?
Tina, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I think, we've worked with people around the world for decades, and often people are trained in these, they go to Bible school, they're trained in theology, they learn how to preach, they learn some leadership skills, but they don't learn the soft skills, like how to walk alongside somebody and really help them to see deep change in their lives. How does that happen? And how can we learn these conversational skills that will allow us to listen, to ask questions that are really going to get to the heart of what's going on, to really walk alongside people in a way that supports and encourages them through the example of Barnabas? How do we do that? And how can we equip people around the world to have those skills so that they're helping others to grow as disciples and grow as leaders, become more effective in their ministries? And that's really the heart of the course.
Right. Yeah. So coming alongside leaders. The subtitle of your course is it's Encourage Them All. What's the subtitle, Kevin? Help me out. It's Life-Changing Conversations with This Generation. I'm not sure, I might have butchered it. So tell me, what's the subtitle, and unpack that subtitle a little bit, if you would.
Yeah, it's come alongside others in life-changing conversations. Well, without going into exact wording, it's coming alongside leaders, potential leaders, next generation leaders. We see potential in them, and we want to see them grow and achieve that potential. How do we help them? And many of us can do that. Many of us can help them get going. There are others who help them move forward. We all have different opportunities where we can come alongside somebody in their life journey and help them to seek the Lord, listen to them, what their challenges are, and kind of encourage them to make that decision and go forward with what's best for them as far as they understand. Anyway, that's the idea.
Right.
We're wanting to. There are some very basic and simple conversational skills that people can learn to enable them to do that. It's pretty simple, but the impact can be very profound. We've experienced that in our own lives. I know I have, with others coming alongside me in times where I just needed some input. And I've also had the opportunity to come alongside others, and utilizing these simple skills has really worked. God has blessed it. We want to see other people discover that as well.
Right. Yeah. So it's simple, but it's not obvious, right? Would you say that's true?
It's
These
almost
are
the
simple
opposite.
skills, but they're not necessarily natural skills for some of us.
Right.
They're things that we need to learn if we want to develop the people that God's placed in our lives and encourage them and walk with them. And I know for many of us, we're believing God will give us Pauls, that we can be Barnabas too, those apostolically gifted people who are going to reach this people group and, plant many, many churches and do incredible things for the kingdom. But Pauls need Barnabas to walk beside them. And even those of us who maybe have more of a Pauline kind of anointing, and I would raise my hand at that. I think I'm more like Paul than Barnabas in my natural personality. We need to grow in skills to learn to be a Barnabas as well as we develop leaders. So this course talks about how to develop those skills, simple but not obvious things that we can learn quickly and begin to put into practice. One of the skills you mentioned, Tina, was asking open questions. Are there any other skills that you'd like to highlight that this course would equip people in?
One of the things I think we all see as leaders is that often the people we work with have really good intentions, and we kind of know how to have conversations with people, and often we have these great conversations, but nothing really happens. And one of the simple skills in the Encourage Them All course is how to help people move towards action and how to provide that follow-up with them, that friendly accountability in a way that is encouraging and not judgmental. And that also really helps people to come back from failure and to overcome obstacles that they're experiencing and begin to move from just dreams and ideas and hopes to actual concrete action that moves them forward, moves their ministries forward, moves a movement forward.
So good. I love that you talked about moving from a dream to action. And I know for those who are aiming at disciple-making movements, and not everyone who's watching this would be, but for many of you guys who are watching, your goal, your desire, your dream is to see a movement of disciples take off in your area. But how do you move from the dream to the action? How do you move there personally, and how do you help others to move there? And such a key important skill that you guys are training on in this Encourage Them All course. So Kevin, why don't you address this one? What are some of the adaptations that you have been experimenting with, and how have you put this into an online course that's particularly focused on training oral culture people? What are some of the different things you've adapted or worked? I know you guys have worked so hard on creating this course. What are some of the things you've done to make it really well suited for people from oral cultures?
Yeah, that's a good question. and I'm happy to answer. Tina and I have taught these skills in the past. And so as far as content, that's pretty easy. And maybe we could just do some training videos to teach these skills, and that'll be great. That shouldn't take too long. Then when we started to consider all the different types of people that we'd love to serve with this training, oral learners, as well as people who are book readers, who learn other words, all these different styles of learning. How do we include everybody? Well, the oral learning aspect was new to us. Like, okay, if they're not going to benefit that much from reading or just hearing somebody talk nonstop, but they want to be involved relationally and to be active, etc. We've all recognized the importance of that in our own lives as well. But how do we do that? How do we incorporate that into this training that we have in mind? And we began to work with our friend Anima in India, and she has worked a lot with oral culture people because they're all around her. She's Indian, and her community often prefers oral learning, so she knows, and so she started to help us. And so we're getting some fresh ideas. Oh, well, then maybe we shouldn't do this, and maybe we should do that. So we began to realize animation could help, where there's a story that you're watching that communicates important concepts. And then maybe you can talk about what you learned out of that story afterwards. Oh, another way that a lot of people learn is through hearing a jingle that communicates the important keys, music. It's just something that kind of helps you remember these things. Oh, how do we make jingles? What would that be like? And so we're getting help and that. So animation, jingles, demonstrations of conversations where people can watch two people talking and interacting, or a small team interacting in a purposeful conversation, watching that and then thinking, well, what did I learn from that? So what seemed like this would be a pretty simple, quick project turned out to actually take a couple of years, right, Tina? It really took about 2 years to do this. But we would both agree, it's been an enjoyable 2 years. We've learned a lot, and we've had so much help, creative help. So it's far more interesting and dynamic than what we would have come up originally. And it's because we are trying our best to keep in mind the vast audience of people that we'd love to serve.
Yeah, well, Tina, I'd love to give you a chance to comment on that. But before we do that, I want to show you one of the jingles and one of the animations. And hopefully my computer is going to work here, but I'd love to show our audience an example of what Kevin's just been talking about, these little songs, little jingles that they've come up with to illustrate a point and to engage the audience. But I want to do that right now as well. So if you are watching, I would love for you to comment in the chat after you watch this little jingle. What stood out to you? What did you understand from this jingle? And we'd love to hear your feedback on it as well. So here we go. Let me see if I can share my screen and show you this. Let's see, 1 second here. I thought I had it ready, but Tina, why don't you go ahead and comment for a moment while I'm getting that queued up?
Okay, I'm happy to do that. I think one of the best things we did was to bring people from oral cultures onto our creative and writing team as full partners in the process of creating this content. that was such a helpful thing to do. Then we consulted some morality experts, because Kevin and I are not experts on that, and neither were our team members. They were bringing their own experience, but they weren't experts on orality. That also brought some really interesting revelations. I think one of the things we learned is the importance of repetition for oral learners. And so there's a lot of repetition built into the course in different learning modes, in different ways. Another thing was recognizing, as Kevin touched on, that rather than explain a concept, we need to demonstrate what it looks like in real life. We need to tell a story or give a metaphor, because for oral learners, they learn more through their five senses, more concretely than abstractly. So if we want to get across content that's a little more abstract and conceptual, we want to have a story that illustrates that. And of course, the Bible is full of amazing stories that demonstrate how to walk alongside people. So drawing from the example of Barnabas, from Jesus, from others in the Bible, provide beautiful examples of others who are promoting growth in those that they're with, that they're conversing with and walking alongside.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I have it here. So let's watch that. And again, as you watch this, give us your feedback. Let us know what you think of it and what stands out to you from it. All right.
Many of us see lots of potential and good intentions in those we walk alongside, but they struggle with follow through. How can we help people develop character and a fruitful ministry? This course, Encourage Them All, helps give us the skills of powerful questions, careful listening, and encouraging progress, so that we can have life-changing conversations that help others grow. You will learn these skills in a fun new way, through catchy jingles, animation, stories, and in small groups with others. You don't need pen and paper, you only need your phone. Come join us and Encourage Them All, where we help others reach their God-given dreams and goals. It is the Barnabas way.
All right. So that's just a little tiny taste of the song, It is the Barnabas Way, which is one of the jingles from the course. And you got to see some of the animations. Go ahead, let us know. What did you think of that? Definitely a creative new way to be presenting material. And there's some other jingles. Maybe one of you could highlight the content of one of the other jingles. We won't play it, but what are some of the other jingles about that they will get when they go through this course? I know there's one called Ask, 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 or something like that.
That's
what's
my
that one about?
favorite.
Yeah,
That's my
your favorite. I
favorite
like
jingle.
that one too.
It's so fun to, I have to say that the writing team and the creative team, as we've listened to these jingles and worked on them over months and months and months, they stick in our heads too. So we find ourselves singing these things, and our families who've listened to them through our computers and our speakers over the last year are also familiar with them, and we laugh about, and as these phrases come to mind and they come into conversation. And that's the point. That's the whole point of creating these memorable jingles set to music. So the one that Cindy's talking about is Ask, Ask, Ask. This is my task. Listening is caring. Listening is believing. Hoping my questions unlock it. I keep my advice in my pocket.
Right. Yeah. So it's just a little jingle. Again, maybe I can put a link to it and people can play it later on. But key concepts put to music in a catchy way that sticks in your head and that you can easily learn. And I won't ask Kevin and Tina to sing Ask, Ask, Ask on the video here, but I'm sure they could. And that you, and probably like you said, all your families have learned it well as you've heard it. And that's our hope, that it would stick in your head as you go through the course, but more than the jingle, that the concepts would stick in your head, that asking key questions And remembering to not just tell, but to ask questions of those that you're training and listen to them and be a good listener who knows how to pull things out of people that you're training and coaching is a good illustration of a key concept. So we're going to need to wrap up here soon. Our time is almost over, but let me know, tell us, how would people sign up for this course? Where do they get more information? Yeah, anything else that you want to say that they would need to know to sign up? Is it for everyone? Do you have to be from oral culture? Anything else you want to tell us about the type of students that you're looking for in this course, or trainees, as we call them?
This is for everyone. If you would like to see other people grow in their faithfulness to Jesus, if you would like to see other people take initiative and move into some type of ministry or leadership, helping them with that, this is for you. If you would like to be built up in leadership skills yourself, an important part of leadership is being able to communicate to others and listen to others and help them grow. So anyway, it would be relevant to just about any follower of Jesus. So please consider this course for yourself as well as for helping others.
Yeah, Tina?
Yeah, you don't have to be the leader of a ministry. You don't have to be a pastor. You can just be a follower of Jesus who wants to walk alongside other people and help them to grow. And so it really applies to everyone. And the beauty of the course is you really can do it without having a laptop computer, without having all the bandwidth to be in a Zoom call like this. You can really do it all on your phone. You can access the groups, the WhatsApp, the videos, everything from your phone. You don't have to read a book. So that's the beauty of the course, and we hope that it will reach around the globe.
Yeah, awesome. How long of a commitment is it? Those who want to take the course, is it a couple weeks? Is it a year? What are we looking at as far as time commitment from them?
Well, the orientation for it takes place the very end of October. So you need to enroll, and then there'll be an orientation time. And then the course begins right after that. And there are 6 modules, and each module has 3 lessons. So you go through it. It won't be demanding of your time, maybe an hour or 2 a week of getting the teaching, practicing, interacting with others on WhatsApp. It's very participatory and relational. So it takes some time to communicate with others and absorb what you're learning. And the modules will be released gradually over the months. So although it starts the end of October, there'll be a Christmas break, but it'll go into, I think, March. So it's a number of months, but not very demanding. You learn gradually and you interact with others along the way.
That's right. Great. And they'll need to be willing to be in practice groups as well. Do you want to say anything about that, just so people can kind of know what to expect? Maybe Tina, could you respond to that?
I think over my years as a trainer, I've recognized that if you don't put into practice what you're learning really right away, you're not going to have the integration of skills into your life and your ministry, your sphere of influence. And so, and again, for oral learners, that repetition and being a practical learning and experiencing is very important. I really think that's important for all of us. It's important for me.
Yeah.
I've got to put into practice right away when I'm learning, or I lose it. And so there is quite an emphasis on practicing and practicing with others. So there are small practice groups available, and we encourage everyone to be part of that, because that really multiplies learning.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. And is this a free course? Is there a cost involved? What what's expected in that area, Kevin?
Yeah, there is a cost, because it costs us a lot to keep getting the word out all over the world. So to keep us, to get the word to you even is a cost. So we have tuition for the course. There are also scholarships. If you can't afford it, then you apply for a scholarship. We try to be as generous as we can, because once again, we don't want to leave anybody out.
That's right. Yeah. And you get what you paid for. This course is well worth the money. I guarantee you that. I've gone through every lesson. It's well worth the investment that you make. And again, we don't want anyone to not be able to take this course because of a financial issue. But if you can pay for the course and pay something at least, we really encourage that and feel like that's important. So, but write to us. You can write to hello@ywamfm.org if you have questions that you'd like to ask about this course, or you can put them there in the chat, send us a message on Messenger, and we would love to get back to you. The link that you want to go to sign up is ywamfm.teachable.com. Okay, ywamfm.teachable.com, and we'll put that in the notes as well for you. But go there, click on the little icon that shows encourage them all, and there you'll get all the information. The scholarship link is there. More information about the course is there as well. And we really hope that many of you will be in this course. We can only accept a limited number of students, so apply today. If you're interested, don't delay. Go right ahead and go to that link that you'll see there with this video, and we'd love to see many of you in the course. Thank you so much, Tina and Kevin, for being on this broadcast today. It's been wonderful to have this chance to talk to you. And I want to ask one last question that we leave people with, and that's, what's one practical thing that they could do to be more effective among oral culture learners, or in the area of encouraging people? One practical thing that you want to leave people with as we wrap up today.
I would say that listening is caring and listening is believing, from that jingle. We know that God listens to us. He listens to our prayers. His ear is attentive to us. And one way that we can be like the Father is to listen to those around us and to honor them in that way.
So good. Kevin?
Yeah, and I would add, there's that jingle, it is the Barnabas way. What is the Barnabas way? And I think it's described pretty much in just 2 verses from Acts chapter 11. It says, when he arrived, he saw evidence of the grace of God, and he rejoiced, and he encouraged them all to remain true to the Lord with all their hearts. So that's a Barnabas way. When you arrive, when you're with other people, look for the evidence of the grace of God at work in their lives, and rejoice, celebrate it with them, encourage them, and encourage them to remain true to the Lord and his calling. Be faithful and obedient to Jesus. That's the Barnabas way.
Excellent. So that's our assignment. I got mine from Kevin and Tina. That's what I want to put into practice, is this week, I'm going to be caring for people by being a good listener, pausing to really listen to what people are saying around me. And that when I do that, I'm being like Jesus. So I'm going to focus on being a good listener this week. And I'm going to look for evidence of what God is doing in their life, evidence of the grace of God, as Kevin said, and recognize it and call it out when I see it. Say, this is something I see in you. And as I do that, and as you guys who are watching, as you do that, people will be encouraged. So whether you join the course or not, let's be good listeners who are like Jesus in that way, who care in that way for people around us. And let's be people who follow the Barnabas way by recognizing the grace of God in those around us. Once again, Kevin and Tina, thanks so much for being with us. Don't forget, sign up for this course right away. It's a limited course, a limited space, and the date to enroll is rolling up very soon. I think Kevin said the 28th is the last day to enroll. So jump right on that if you're interested. Again, Kevin and Tina, thanks so much for being with us. God bless you guys.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay.